The year is 1492. Christopher Columbus and his ships lay becalmed in the Sargasso Sea. Suddenly, they witness something terrifying. Did the ship's log actually record the first sighting of a UFO in the New World? Flight 19 was on a routine flight with an experienced crew. How could they have vanished without a trace? Even today, this area has strange occurrences that are constantly being reported by professional pilots and seamen. Are these mysterious events the work of visitors from outer space? What is the answer to the perplexing riddle of the area now called the Bermuda Triangle? We'll find out in this chapter of the UFO Diaries. In recent years, many people have come to dismiss the so-called mystery of the Bermuda Triangle in the same way they would a superstition or a fairy tale. But given the growing body of evidence that many things are happening there that are beyond our understanding, there seems to be a pressing need to examine the legends and the facts about the Bermuda Triangle. To many, the Bermuda Triangle is nothing more than the nickname given to an area of the mid-Atlantic, roughly cornered by Florida, Puerto Rico, and the island of Bermuda. But is it anything more? Is it in some way different from any other part of our planet's oceans? According to many who study the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, since 1945 alone, there have been over 1,000 vanishings of everything from huge naval vessels to private boats, from small planes to commercial airliners. Of course, not only the craft disappear forever, but all the people on board them as well.
I think the most spectacular mystery about the Devil's Triangle is probably one of the ones that's more played down than any other, and that's the disappearance of the Navy ship USS Cyclops. This was a 500-foot, 19,000-ton coaling ship, and this took place during World War I. Back then, they had coal ships instead of tankers because most of the ships operated on coal. Well, this ship had over 300 officers and men on it, put to sea from Barbados in the British West Indies, bound for Norfolk, Virginia. It was never seen again. The ship and the 300 officers and men disappeared without a trace.
Some claim that violent weather in the region is responsible, that sudden squalls have downed aircraft and sailing ships alike, sending them in moments to the bottom of the sea. Others, however, suggest a far more sinister force is at work.
Over the years, I have checked and rechecked almost every theory as to why so many ships, aircraft have vanished in the Bermuda Triangle without a trace.
From the old Spanish Admiralty records that Columbus wrote, we learn that he was the first to record the strange and frightening images in the night sky over what we now call the Sargasso Sea. We can only guess at the nameless dread that must have filled the hearts of those intrepid seamen, lost in a strange and frightening world. But from his log and reports, we know that the Columbus expedition encountered the same mysterious phenomena in the Bermuda Triangle that continues to haunt us, even in the pre-dawn of the 21st century. Columbus also recorded that the island natives, like the Caribs and the Arawaks of Puerto Rico, were long familiar with strange occurrences in this part of the world. Their legends contain many stories of sky gods and green fireboats that could fly in the sky or under the water.
I myself have only had one experience on the Devil's Triangle, and that was in the southeastern Bahamas when I saw, or thought I saw, a lighthouse that wasn't there. Aside from that, I have not experienced anything unusual, but I've known people who've seen what they referred to as UFOs, green glows coming out of the sky and crashing into the water and disappearing down into the depths. And they referred to them as UFOs, and I guess that's what they were, UFOs.
But as strange as these stories may be, they pale in comparison to the more terrifying aspects of the Bermuda Triangle. The history of strange disappearances, the list of ships reported lost, the stories of ghostly derelicts, and the accounts of aircraft seemingly snatched from the skies is staggering. And virtually every lost vessel represents an appalling loss of life. One of the most famous lost aircraft cases is that of Flight 19, 5 aircraft that vanished together shortly after World War II. It is also the story that many believe gives us the first clue linking the Bermuda Triangle to UFOs.
It began routinely enough on December 5th 1945. An advanced training flight was scheduled for takeoff at 1400 hours. 5 pilots and 10 crew members were scheduled to go up. Ironically, their course was to be a simple triangle with an expected flight time of 2 hours. The flight leader was Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced combat pilot with over 2,500 hours of flying time. Flight 19 had completed the first leg of the flight plan and turned north. Suddenly, all of the aircraft began experiencing problems with their instruments.
This is Foxtrot 28, calling Foxtrot 36. My instruments have gone crazy.
My instruments are malfunctioning too. Where are we?
Some 40 miles away, Lieutenant Robert Cox, a training instructor, picked up their transmissions, but for some reason they couldn't hear him. Cox called the base station in Fort Lauderdale, which had lost contact with Flight 19, and immediately emergency procedures went into effect. Base operations continued to receive Lieutenant Cox's transmissions, which told them Flight 19 was lost and disoriented, but they could not get through to Taylor or any of his pilots. Ham radio operators up and down the coast were also tuned into the lost flight and monitored their frequency. Then, as night fell, one of them caught the last words to ever be heard from Flight 19.
Don't come after us! They look like...
What could Lieutenant Taylor have seen that caused him to insist that no one try to rescue Flight 19? Meanwhile, according to Berlitz, a huge search and rescue mission had already been launched. But then the first plane to respond to the emergency, a giant Martin Mariner with a crew of 13, disappeared from radar.
In the end, Flight 19 and the Martin Mariner, 28 men in all, disappeared without a trace, as if they had passed through some window into another dimension.
According to Berlitz, the Naval Board of Inquiry attributed the disappearances to malfunctioning navigational equipment that caused the planes to run out of fuel far out at sea. But is it really possible for this to have happened to all 6 planes simultaneously? Berlitz goes on to say that one member of the Board of Inquiry was quoted as saying Flight 19 had vanished as completely as if they had flown to Mars. Could that remark, in fact, be very close to the truth? In the southernmost corner of the Bermuda Triangle, there are many who would have no trouble believing that at all. Some experts think that the Bermuda Triangle is simply the region of choice for visitors to our planet. Could this activity be the cause of all the vanishings? We'll find out when UFO Diaries returns. Few people would deny that many strange and unexplainable events have transpired in the Bermuda Triangle. But is there evidence to support the stories of UFO activity? UFO activity different from that observed in any other part of the world?
Puerto Rico is a continual hotspot for UFO activity, and it has been for years. UFOs being seen and photographed going in and out of the water just off the coast of Puerto Rico. Intense activity near a U.S. naval base there called Roosevelt Roads. And the Navy, of course, is very mum about this sort of thing. They don't say very much about it, but it's continuous. For example, there is a beautiful mountain in Puerto Rico in the middle of a tropical rainforest called El Yunque. For some interesting reason, it has continually been a spot of intense UFO activity. And when I was there with an investigator friend of mine, who I highly regard and highly respect, we went up on top of El Yunque. This place is swarming with Walking Hut security. Now, it's interesting to your viewers, I think, to note that Walking Hut Security is also the organization that provides the security at Groom Lake, Site 51, Dreamland, near Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Why are they all over El Yunque in Puerto Rico?
Could reports of UFO abductions in Puerto Rico be somehow related to other disappearances elsewhere in the Bermuda Triangle?
Sightings of UFOs are quite common in the Bermuda Triangle, as well as reports of persons kidnapped by alien beings. There have also been numerous accounts about disc-shaped UFOs under the water in the same way as they perform in the air.
Richard Weiner, author of The Devil's Triangle, relates a case that seems to corroborate these reports of underwater UFO sightings. He tells of a charter boat operator named John Carpenter and of his remarkable experience in the Bermuda Triangle. Carpenter apparently saw 2 UFOs exploring the water with some sort of projecting energy beam. Carpenter then saw exactly what so many others had reported seeing. Carpenter's experience would seem to confirm that whatever is going on in the Bermuda Triangle goes through the water or through the air with equal ease. Is the beam that Carpenter saw coming down from the UFOs a clue linking these craft to the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle?
Perhaps these incidents are taking place in the Bermuda Triangle in such numbers because they are close to home. Many theorists believe that alien entities have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. Some even believe they may have found a culture here that was far in advance of those elsewhere on Earth. According to the ancient story, all of Atlantis went to the bottom of the sea after some natural catastrophe 12,000 years ago. Perhaps this was the Atlantis that has become a legend, believed to be nothing more than a myth.
Are aliens, or the descendants of aliens, watching us from the deepest part of the Atlantic, studying us, and occasionally collecting specimens for study?
I think abductees, some of them may have indeed been taken to some underground facilities. That's not to say that that is a fact. Abductees have been taken to places that they have assumed were underground facilities. Abductees have also reported that they have seen what appeared to be U.S. military people involved in their abduction. Now, that may not be the case. It may be the case that some of those involved in the abduction are some of those aliens that look exactly like we do, who are trying to give the impression that our military are involved.
It isn't just beams of light or beams of energy that punctuate the puzzle of the Bermuda Triangle. There is also some sort of fog or mist, and it seems to have a variety of peculiar effects on ships and planes. Einstein said the Bermuda Triangle could be a cosmic doorway leading to a different time and space continuum. Do UFOs have the key to that door?
We're dealing with something which is interdimensional. We're probably dealing with something which has been around for a very long time, not just since 1947. The UFO phenomenon is something highly complex and is composed of many, many different aspects.
Well, you have to ask the question, are they from another planet? We don't know the answer to that. A lot of people believe they're extraterrestrial. A lot of other people believe that they are from other dimensions, parallel universes, time travelers, that they're us 2 million years in the future, maybe separated from our reality by some thin psychic membrane.
Has anyone gone through that doorway and returned to tell us about it? We'll find out in a moment when UFO Diaries returns. According to UFO experts, a rapidly growing body of evidence indicates that, incredible as it may seem, thousands of people have been taken forcibly aboard alien craft. These astounding incidents seem to have all the characteristics of many stories of disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle. UFOs have often been seen in the area by many witnesses, and a beam of intense energy has figured prominently. But other witnesses tell of a greenish glow or mist. Charles Berlitz has recorded for us the case of Chuck Wakely, who was piloting for Sunline Aviation in Miami. Wakely had completed a charter run to Nassau and was headed back to Miami. According to him, the sky was perfectly clear. Suddenly, he was surrounded by an intense greenish light, so powerful, in fact, that he could no longer see outside of the plane. Wakely said his instruments then began to malfunction badly. Soon, there was little he could do but release the controls and let the plane fly itself. Then, according to Wakely, the glow just as suddenly faded, and everything returned to normal. So if disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle are part of the UFO abduction phenomenon, have there ever been missing time episodes there? Take, for example, the case of National Airlines Flight 401.
The Miami Tower was called for a time check. The instrument panel clock was right on. They were 20 minutes out and right on schedule. Later, the co-pilot would remember seeing a strange green mist that enveloped the aircraft, but otherwise everything was completely normal.
Never seen anything like that.
But in the Miami Tower, the air traffic controller was jolted when the blip of the approaching Flight 727 suddenly vanished from the radar screen.
I've just lost Flight 727.
The controller immediately went into emergency priority status. Within minutes, the Coast Guard Search and Rescue Squadron was in action, and the Miami airport prepared for the worst.
What time is it? I think my watch is broken.
When the flight attendant checked for any last-minute instructions, she couldn't believe she had completed her usual 10 to 12-minute cabin duties in less than 3 minutes. And the co-pilot was surprised to discover the greenish mist that enveloped the aircraft since the time check was gone, not only from about the aircraft, but from the sky itself. Precisely 10 minutes from the time Flight 727 had vanished from the radar screen, it just as suddenly and mysteriously reappeared. The complex equipment was in perfect working order, as the ongoing computer and manual scans verified. Flight 727 landed without incident, with the crew understandably curious about the emergency equipment along the runway. And they were all incredulous when told that their arrival was 10 minutes late, despite the fact that the instrument panel clock synchronized exactly with the earlier tower time check. It was now, along with every one of the crew's watches, 10 minutes slow.
And what of that green fog? Could it somehow identify the doorway into another time? Captain Don Henry tells us of his terrifying encounter.
We were coming back from Puerto Rico on the good news, with a tow of 2,500 ton on 1,000 feet of 4-inch hawser. Beautiful weather. You wouldn't want for a nicer day anywhere. I was enjoying some downtime in my cabin when the electric started acting up. We checked the whole system. Generators, breakers, shunts, just fine. Nothing wrong below. But topside, there weren't anything right. There was a funny-looking fog, I guess you'd call it, kind of oozing all over the barge. I figured I'd better take another good look inside, and that's just about when that blow smacked into us. "... 25 years at sea, I never saw the likes of that squall. It come out of nowhere. All our instruments were going crazy. Compass, radio, radar, engine monitors, absolutely berserk. At first, we was just worried about losing the tow, but then we started getting worried about our own skins. We were redlined at 850, big twin 2,000 horse EMV diesels churning up green water, and we couldn't make a foot of headway. Something had a hold of us and wouldn't let go. Then just like that, the squall was over. We set the automatic pilot to go check damage, and we haven't lost no rigging or deck gear. But then what I saw gave me goosebumps all over. A half-ton of hawsers stiff-stretched after the fantail, and not a thing connected to the bitter end. When we got her hauled in, you could see there wasn't no eye splice, and the line wasn't raggedy like it had parted. No, sir. Looked like it had been whacked off with a fire axe, and there was a bone-aching chill in the air. Yet the rails and fittings were hot enough to give you a smart burn. We had a narrow escape from whatever took hold of us out there.
A half-ton of tow rope stretched out to nothing, and the barge was simply gone. Could aliens actually be controlling events in this part of the world? An outrageous-sounding theory, perhaps, but is there evidence to suggest that that is exactly what has been happening in the Bermuda Triangle? Have entire ships and planes been captured by UFOs? But could there be a simpler, more logical explanation? Can natural occurrences account for the vanishings? Or is there an even more terrifying explanation for the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle? The answers to those questions when UFO Diaries returns. In seeking an explanation for the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, evidence presents itself that seems to indicate that the real culprits are invaders from another world. But is this the only possible explanation?
The blue holes in the ocean apparently have the quality of swallowing things that fall into them more quickly than other parts of the sea. It is a curious fact that no debris has been found from the ships or planes which have disappeared in the triangle. It has even been suggested that for some reason it has been important to take ships and planes intact to somewhere else.
About once a year, some salvage crew will claim they found one of the missing TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. The most recent one took place right off Fort Lauderdale a few years back. They said they found 3 or 4 planes together on the bottom, and that sounded really like they had found the missing Flight 19. But doing a little research, I found out that after the war, they had a lot of planes or TBMs at the Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station that they had cannibalized parts off of for other planes. And they couldn't fly those planes out, so to get rid of them, and they were surplus and of no use to the Navy anymore, they loaded them on barges at Port Everglades, took them out to sea, and shoved them overboard. And my theory is that's what the 3 or 4 planes they found off Fort Lauderdale were.
Are entire ships and planes being captured by vessels from another planet? And if so, why would this happen in only one part of the world?
The strange goings-on in the Devil's Triangle are not exclusive to the Devil's Triangle. There's also an area off of the east coast of Japan called the Devil's Sea. If you went in the center of the Devil's Triangle and you bored a hole through the center of the Earth, you would come out in the center of the Devil's Sea. And the Devil's Sea and the Devil's Triangle are the only 2 places on Earth where the compass points to the true north, not the magnetic north.
Could this really be the solution to the centuries-old mystery of the Bermuda Triangle? And if so, does it indicate the final fate of those who have disappeared there?
It's a little bit unsettling that we don't know this yet. We should know it by now, but this is such a clandestine phenomenon that we have been unable to come to a firm agreement about what the concluding aspects of this abduction phenomenon is. However, we are on the verge of that. We're right now in information overload. Right now we know tremendous amounts about this subject, and we are closing in on the ultimate purposes. And I think within the next few years we are going to completely solve this phenomenon, and we are going to know what the entire UFO phenomenon is all about.
Thousands of people are missing without any explanation. That is, no earthly one.
Perhaps we will someday know if alien visitors are indeed the culprits behind the disappearances and the missing time episodes in this most remarkable corner of our world's oceans. But until then, the terrifying phenomenon of the Bermuda Triangle remains another unexplained mystery in the pages of UFO Diaries.